Meet Isabella Weik, a proud Toledo School for the Arts and University of Toledo graduate. As an ambassador for Toledo and a young person herself, Isabella is well positioned to share the perspective of Gen Z on life in Toledo. From her battle with a rare autoimmune disease to her impressive list of accomplishments at UT and involvement in real estate development, Isabella's diverse experiences have shaped her outlook on life and her ability to overcome challenges. Her passion for Toledo's revitalization and work ethic will inspire those seeking to create a bright future in the Glass City. We're thrilled to welcome Isabella Weik as a guest on the Heart of Glass podcast, where she'll share her positive vibes, impressive ambition, and passion for the growth of Toledo. Join us as we dive into her inspiring journey and learn how she stays zen while reaching for the stars.
Are you ready to talk about your life in depth?
Yes, I'm ready for it.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so I found it really interesting when you said you grew up on a 10-acre farm, especially considering that it was right on the border of oak openings. That must have been gorgeous, first of all. So what was it like growing up in that environment, and how did it influence your current connection to nature?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it was everything to me. Like some of my earliest memories are driving home with my dad. My dad had a truck, right? And we would drive to this specific corner of the street, and we would turn off the car and turn down the windows and just listen to the frogs. If you've ever been to oak openings, you know what I'm talking about. There's just this incredible rhythm, this incredible pounding of these frogs. And so from a really young age, I learned the importance of turning off the things and the stuff and actually going to nature as a place to decompress. I learned that from my parents, just watching them interact with our land itself. But also when I was a kid, naturally, if I was mad that I couldn't get the toy or whatever the thing was that day, I would naturally actually go outside to decompress. I would go outside to pet the grass or maybe hug a tree or, or throw a stick, but get it out.
You just kind of felt yourself naturally compelled to do that?
I did. Yeah. It was very second nature. Nature.
I wordplay is excellent. That's fantastic. So that makes a lot of sense that you would feel naturally drawn to it. I think for the most part, we as people are very naturally drawn to things and people that are calming and centering. And so even though you might not have been able to put the pieces together at the time, that makes so much sense that you would have been naturally drawn to nature. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So beyond that, what were some of your favorite things about growing up in that environment?
Oh my gosh. I would say the first thing was my dogs, being able to play with my dogs outside in nature. No leashes, no anything. I had 3 pugs. I now have 2. Louis passed away. R.I.P. Louis.
I'm sorry to hear that.
He's a great pug. Amazing dog. But my favorite memories were actually just running around our backyard with the dogs and laying down and then having the dogs hop on top of me and, sniff my head and all this stuff. And so we were experiencing that together. And so exploring was a huge part of it. And also, too, I found that in nature, I was able to connect with that sense of calmness. And I really was able to work on my creativity. And at the time, I'm not thinking, okay, I'm actively working on my creativity now. Let me go out in nature. But you lay down and you look up at the clouds and what does that look like? You look at the tree and go, okay, what was the life of that tree before I was here? I used to make up stories about the different trees in the backyard or the different flowers. And it really solidified in me this ability to look at the outside world and allow myself a second to actually observe it, not just see something and either judgment, either it's yes or it's no.
Ooh,
There's
yeah.
time in there. There's a pause in there to say, okay, what is that thing really? And I think a lot of kids, they have this moment like a field trip. You go on a field trip out to Oak Openings or to a metro park or something, and the ranger is like, okay, let's study this leaf for a second. And so a lot of kids are not used to that, actually taking the time to study the leaf.
Yeah.
But when you can actually cultivate that skill of how to study the leaf, how to look at the things, it's powerful. And I still use that skill to this day.
Wow. That automatically makes me think about Buddhism and about your parents' connection with the temple. I thought that was so cool when you told me that they founded the Buddhist temple in Toledo.
Yes.
So how did growing up in that environment shape your overall outlook on life and also your ability to handle stress? I can already tell that you in general seem to be a very calm person. But how did I'm assuming that growing up in that environment probably did contribute a lot to that.
Oh,
but
heck yeah.
yeah.
Heck
Can you tell me about that?
Absolutely. I mean, so growing up, actually, this is really interesting. A dear friend of mine, Natalie Gray, posted something on her Instagram story the other day. And she said, a form of generational wealth is the ability to have good coping mechanisms, coping skills. And you learn that from your parents. And I was like, yeah.
What's the connection there?
When I was a kid, I would learn, I saw my parents meditating. I saw them speaking kindly to each other. I saw them looking in the same direction, having the same vision, building the same thing, both physically in the temple itself, but also building community. Community in Buddhism is called Sangha. So building the Sangha together. And so from a really young age, I just saw all these incredibly healthy coping mechanisms, these coping skills. I mean, that word doesn't even really begin to touch that, but seeing them live their life as a practice. Buddhism is really deeply about like doing the work for yourself so that you can go out in the world and do it for the whole world. Like like we don't mess around about this like compassion, kindness. Yeah. Like we're doing this, and we're doing this hard because the world is suffering. And so I was so blessed to be born to a family where that's at the forefront of what we do. I saw my parents work be their purpose, their passion. And it's incredible.
Why do you think that community is so essential?
Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay, so I love the sense of belonging and community aspect of being a human being. Like that is so critical. We are in a crisis of loneliness right now, an absolute crisis of it. When I was a kid and being able to go to the temple and see the community that was there was so enriching to me. And also the sense of community that I got later at school and at the University of Toledo, and now all the way fast forward to Toll House. I mean, that sense of community is everything.
We are definitely going to talk about Toll House. I'm really excited to talk about that part of your life with you. I've been exposed to Toll House a couple times, and it's amazing. And I know that prior to my initial exposure, I didn't know anything about it. So I'm very excited to dive into that with you.
Happy to talk about it.
Yes. So you talked about loneliness being so prevalent lately, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think especially with 2020 and the pandemic blowing up, I think that isolation and self-alienation, there's definitely an uptick in that. And I think, in my personal opinion, I do think that people are so incredibly hungry for it. I think oftentimes people don't really know how to make that happen for themselves. And so I love that you recognize the importance of finding community and having community.
Yeah, and it really boils down to you have to really be active about it. actively take care of yourself. Be proactive about your social well-being, because no one's, especially with social well-being, no one's going to do that for you unless you've built in the support system. So for example, when I was first entering the young professional scene in Toledo, I didn't have like that many young professional friends. And so what I did is I said, okay, I know myself, and I know that I need that. I need young people who are hungry, who are going after things, and how do they think, and who are they meeting? And so I joined an organization, and I just went, you just show up. Just show up. That's all you have to do. And it has to be something that you feel and see yourself in, right? You can't graft some other interest on top of you.
Sure.
The most palpable, the most like authentic relationships come from environments and organizations that you feel yourself in. The two things we need most as people is to feel a sense of growth and a sense of contribution. And what better way to find those two things and to give those two things than to be in an environment with people who also are doing something that you care about.
That's incredible. I think the common ground piece is really key there, and it's really hard to attach onto a community in a positive way if you don't really have that common ground, and you don't really have that passion for it. Mm-hmm. So speaking of community in general and being involved in multiple communities, your father, as you said, is a very skilled musician and martial artist. So how has his influence and your background with that influenced your approach to both of those different art forms today?
Oh my gosh. Well, I just got to say again, I'm so grateful for my family. I'm so grateful for my parents because, for so many reasons. But one thing that my dad really showed me is that you don't have to just be one thing. There's so many times in the, personal development books or whatever, you focus on the one thing and that's it. But you can actually wear multiple hats, and not only wear them, but wear them well. Style those hats up, be a master at those things. And so my dad is a Zen master, quite literally. He's an 7th degree black belt in Aikido. He founded Shobu Aikido of Ohio, which is a Aikido dojo. He's now passed it on to his 2 senior students. They're moving the dojo to Perrysburg, and that's going to be fabulous.
Wow.
And then he's also, Buddhist, Aikido, and then guitar. He's a jazz musician.
Wow. That's awesome.
He went to Berklee College of Music, and then he went to New England Conservatory for music, and he's a
serious musician.
Killer musician.
Wow.
He's a killer jazz musician, killer classical guitar as well, too.
Wow.
But yeah, so he tells the story of when I was in my mom's belly, and my dad would strum the guitar against my mom's belly. And so...
Wow, that's really sweet.
I know.
That's really sweet.
I'm sure my mom in some way was like, okay, all right, I'm over that. But I'm sure it was cute for a little bit there. And so I grew up listening to incredibly high quality, potent music, like really just incredible quality music. Yeah. And that absolutely informs my sensitivity, not only in conversation with people, but also music-wise, listening to music. Don't get me wrong, I still love my silly pop music.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got the windows down, I'm blasting little Britney Spears. Don't get me wrong, I still love that. But the gift of being able to actually really enjoy good music.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, as a musician, when you're sitting there listening to a really great musician, there's nothing like it, because you actually know how much time that took. The articulations of the phrases and how much actually goes into creating
Yeah.
a good piece of music. I'm sure you feel that too. As a
Definitely.
musician.
I feel like you have an extra level of appreciation for it because you do know everything that went into it. And especially with thinking about jazz has so many nuances, and that is some serious music to be listening to and absorbing as a young person. So that makes a lot of sense to me that you would have a very eclectic taste in music.
I do.
And you have to appreciate the lighter stuff too. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there's a place for top 40.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you've experienced your fair share of challenges starting when you were little. I know you said you got diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease when you were 8. So what was it like dealing with the challenges that you faced with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was a challenge in and of itself to realize that that was what was happening. So going back to my dad he's a Aikido master, Aikido teacher. I was in all the kids' classes. Like I basically lived in the dojo. I was flipping people. I was getting flipped. I was doing cool things. Like I was so in it. And also I was a gymnast too. I also did gymnastics and stuff. All the other kids would be doing the handstand. I was that one little redhead girl would go, can I do the one-handed cartwheel instead? Like I was that girl.
I feel like that fits with your ambitious, determined personality. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yes. And so I was incredibly active, but then one day I went to go do this one-handed handstand.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it. It's like this fear started to lock up in my body, and I couldn't do it. And my teacher was like, just do it. And I was like, I can't. I was 7 years old at the time. And so my mom was like, okay, this is kind of weird, but like, whatever, let's just see what happens with time. And as time went on, it just became worse and worse. And so it got to the point, Ashley, where I was literally in bed and I couldn't go to school. And it wasn't because I was, a kid that didn't want to go to school. Like I actually couldn't get up to go to school. My body hurt so much and my everything ached so much. I didn't even have the words to describe it, but it was just a weight over me. And so my parents were like, okay, this is serious. And so we went to Cleveland Clinic based on the recommendation of one of my dad's Aikido students, actually, who's a doctor. At the time, I had been to the doctor here in Toledo, but they were like, okay, it's probably just rheumatoid arthritis, which if you know anything about arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, that's usually for like older people, like not for
children.
Not for children. So that was a piece of it. And so I was on medication for it, but it wasn't enough. At this point, I could not go to school. So we go to Cleveland Clinic and I arrive at the doctor's office, and the guy's name, I mean, many blessings to him. His name's Dr. Hashkiss. And he looked at me, he looked at my hands, he looked at my wrists, my everything. And he turned to my parents and said, she can't go home. So I was in Cleveland Clinic for a week straight.
It must have been terrifying for your family and for you.
Oh my God, yeah. You're at like the top hospital in the country.
Yeah.
And we're expecting them to just be like, oh yeah, it is just rheumatoid arthritis and just take this medication. And no. It's like I learned this later in my life. He pulled my dad aside and said, this is very serious. Like she could not make it kind of serious. And so he was like, I think it's this thing, but we're going to make sure. So I did a battery of tests. And during that time, it was terrifying. I'm a little kid. I'm 8 years old at this point. I'm in this wing of Cleveland Clinic, and there's the little girl she's a toddler and she's all by herself. I mean, just heartbreaking stuff. And so I went through this battery of tests, and it came back that I have this really rare autoimmune disorder called mixed connective tissue disease. And so rheumatoid arthritis is actually just a piece of it. There's so much into it. I have this thing called Raynaud's where like if you get cold, your fingers turn like white or purple. It's a little crazy. It doesn't hurt or anything for me personally, but it's quite literally a mixed bag of things, and incredibly rare, Ashley, like incredibly rare. And so I was horrible medications. just shit you just don't want to do as an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Getting shots weekly, getting put on steroids. My face was like a chipmunk.
Wow.
I wasn't able to go to school. I was homeschooled at the time, and all I had to do, Ashley, is I just laid in bed and I watched TV and I read books and stuff. But that period of my life was hard.
How did you keep that from completely destroying your spirit?
My parents played a huge role in that. Huge role. My mom was so good at just being there, being my caretaker. Really.
Wow.
It was sucky to have to do those medications every Friday. I remember the day. I was like,
I bet you do.
It was like, oh,
yeah.
Friday's the bad day. And she was there, and she was my caretaker, and she was still is my best friend.
That's awesome.
She just was right there with me, just really saw me. My father too, my whole family, my grandparents, my aunt, like everyone was, but particularly my mom, because my dad, he had to go to work and stuff. She was right there with me, and she showed me truly what loving compassion is.
Wow.
And what it's like to actually like live in that, and what it means to really give it away in a really potent, powerful way. Because I'm 22 years old now, and so I can look back at that experience and go, oh my God, if my daughter was going through that, like how, what? And so it was really, it grew our bond so strong. So strong. And then when I was 13, I'd been going kind of like doing these medications. It was kind of working, kind of not-ish. And then there was this moment where they were like, okay, there's this new drug basically that came out, Cleveland Clinic, the top of the whatever. We want you to try. It's a trial run. And it was a form of chemotherapy, actually.
Oh, okay.
And so I would go to Cleveland Clinic and get these infusions, and that was sucky. That was sucky, but that actually helped. That was the turning point.
Okay.
That was the turning point
So,
for me.
so did you start to see some improvement after that?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and now, look at you now. You're clearly such a strong person, and that obviously did not destroy your spirit at all, which is amazing.
Oh, thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you today as far as your health goes?
Oh my gosh. It's really, I am living in the biggest, wildest dreams of my younger self. It's, I get a little emotional about it because I know what it feels like to not be connected to your body and to not feel like you have control over how you move and what you do. And the biggest blessing of my adulthood, and there have been many, is that I can finally be in my body fully. I got to college and I said, okay, let's do this thing. And I became a personal trainer.
Wow.
I'm now a yoga instructor and I get to teach. It's the biggest blessing.
I can tell that you're so very, very aware of the second chance that you've been given, and I can tell that you fully appreciate it. You I know you went to TSA while you were at Toledo School for the Arts. Were you actively dealing with all of this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was at this point at TSA. They were so gracious and so good about being accommodating to me. I would only be able to do half days for middle school, from 6th grade to 8th grade.
Yeah.
I could really only handle doing a half day at Toledo School for the Arts. And for that half day, I would actually be in a wheelchair. So my friends would wheel me around, and everyone was so great and accommodating.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and it was right around that same time when this new medication started to come out, and this at the same time too, I was really starting to focus on Eastern modalities of healing as well.
Okay.
And so that played a huge part. It was like those two things coming together, and TSA was just kind of that solid place for me. It really was. I mean, I owe a lot to TSA. I met my best friends at TSA. I've got two best friends from childhood, but my core group of high school friends I met at TSA, and I can't say enough good things about the school.
What do you think sets TSA apart from other schools?
I would say one is that we're downtown Toledo in an old Ford factory that's been revitalized to be a arts school. Like that in and of itself is a really cool story.
It's very cool. It's
very
very cool. It fits with the whole vibe, the artistic vibe. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would say too, the infusion of the arts into the academics as well. I didn't love it all the time. I mean, I'm not gonna, sugarcoat. Like sometimes they would have us do a bunch of drawings or whatever. I'm not a visual artist myself. I'm a vocalist, so. But it was always there was a real sensitivity there when you have art at the forefront that requires sensitivity.
Definitely.
And
yes.
so that was very much informed. That informed my experience and how teachers taught. I love that some of the teachers I had at TSA, they're now my close friends.
That's awesome.
I just adored them, and I loved how they taught and how they treated us as people. Oh my gosh. Like, I feel like so many times I would talk to friends at other schools and they'd be like, I go there, I get my work done, and I leave. Here it was like, you go, you do your work, and then you want to hang out with the teacher during lunch, and then you want to hang out with them after school, and then you want to play music with them or hear their art, because each teacher there and there's a scale in that, but they have some connection to the arts.
I could see that being such a different environment and how it changes your relationship with the educator, because it's basically like you're learning from the people that you want to become, which is different from a traditional school setting. That must have been so amazing being exposed to that and being able to learn from people that were doing what you wanted to be doing.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And you are a very, very talented jazz vocalist.
Oh.
Very talented, yes.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And you studied vocal jazz while you were at TSA. So how did studying that at TSA help to sharpen that skill set and influence it for you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, so my teachers at TSA were so good. And in fact, my private lesson, I had three incredible teachers that I got to interact with because of TSA. One in particular, Ramona Collins, used to come in.
So talented. Right? Oh my gosh.
She used to come into TSA and do these workshops with us about stage presence. Oh my gosh, how to handle a mic, all that stuff. I still use that stuff to this day. How do you enter a space? How do you utilize the space so that you feel good in it? And then you express. You don't work yourself around the mic. The mic works around you. And she taught me that. I also Kim Bueller, an incredible jazz vocalist.
I love Kim. I actually just met her very recently, within the last couple of months, and have gotten to do some pretty informal singing with her over at Trinity.
Oh,
yeah. She is awesome. She's so awesome.
Yes, she's incredible. And then also Dr. Ellie Martin.
Okay.
She teaches at the University of Toledo and also private lessons at TSA. She also has an album coming out. Y'all should check out Dr. Ellie Martin. She's amazing and so influential to me.
I'm so glad that TSA had such a positive impact on your life. That seems to be the general theme from most people that I've spoken to that have gone there, is that it's been a very, very positive experience and helped shape you and figure out kind of where you want to go from there.
Oh, yeah.
So speaking of which, from there, you are a very proud UT graduate with an incredibly impressive list of accomplishments from your time there, including seeking connection once again, going back to this theme of community. You joined a sorority, and you cited that as one of the best decisions that you've ever made. I am so curious to know why that is for you.
Oh my gosh. Well, going to UT itself was actually not my first choice. My first choice that I wanted to was Berklee College of Music, because I was studying vocal jazz.
Sure,
And so I was like,
yeah.
oh, that's where the people go. My dad works at the University of Toledo, so I get free tuition. And so I said, okay.
Makes a lot of sense.
UT is it. And when I got there was like that 6-month-ish period where I was extremely lonely. I was just like, how do you find community? All the things that I laid out, like I didn't know those tricks. I didn't know what to do. And so my best friend from TSA, one of my best friends, she joined this sorority. And I said, all right, at this point, I need something. And I trust my best friend's judgment, so let me just like join her thing. And so I joined Delta Phi Epsilon in the fall of 2018, and it was the best decision I made because it was a warm, welcoming environment. Our founders were 5 Jewish women that created our sorority because they weren't allowed in the Christian sororities at the time.
That is awesome.
So they got together and they were like, all right,
wow,
let's make our own. And so
that's so cool.
And I completely resonate with that on like a lot of levels. So they did that, and then our it's all justice, sisterhood, and love. Those are our 3 values, and justice is first. And so I feel that throughout my life, continuing forward to justice is a key value of mine, and I have my sorority to thank for that. But my sorority kind of opened the doors for like, okay, this is what it's like to be part of an organization. This is how you can contribute. This is what it looks like when it goes really well. This is what it looks like when it, you're not utilizing all that there is in it.
I see. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense to me that you described yourself as somebody who's very justice-minded, especially since I know you said that you were very, very dedicated to the idea of creating a more diverse and inclusive element of Greek life on campus. So let's talk about 2020 for a second, because I know for most people, work changed completely, workloads changed, and a lot of people kind of put on the brakes a little bit and started to slow down. And I know that 50% of your time at UT was during the pandemic. You did not slow down, though, from the way you described it. So let's talk about the UT Multi-Faith Council. Yeah, tell me about that, please. I would love to hear about it.
Sure. So I was sitting in my bedroom, and it was COVID 2020. I'm a sophomore, okay? Like I barely even had any time at UT. But I had this memory of when I was a kid. I would go to the Multi-Faith Council of Northwest Ohio with my parents. And it would bring all these different faiths together. And they were all friendly with each other. There was community in that. And I was the vice president of the Zen Buddhist Student Association at UT. And so I was in that leadership role as a freshman, and I kind of looked around, I go, oh my gosh, like there's so much religious diversity here, particularly in Toledo, like as a city. We're one of the most religiously diverse cities in the country, actually.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yes, and at UT as well, we have a lot of religious diversity, but no one talked to each other, actually. Like it was very rare.
Why do you think that is?
I would say just because it's especially in college, I feel like you do what's modeled to you.
I see.
And so it wasn't modeled at the time to make an effort to build these bridges.
That makes a lot of sense.
It was, and they're, they were fine doing their thing, and that was great. And so I saw this gap, and I said, all right, this just needs a little glue or a little something to bridge these gaps. And that's where the UT Multi-Faith Council came from. So I was sitting there in 2020, like writing out the Constitution on my laptop. And I was like, okay, I need this person on my executive board and this person. Actually, 2 of my 4 executive board members were from TSA. Shout out TSA again. And so we create this thing from the ground up. And
that's so awesome.
It's still an organization now. And I'm still feeling, and this is something really important I want to share, Ashley, is that these things that I've been blessed enough to be part of, to contribute in some way, I gave such love and such purpose and such genuine feeling into those things that actually to this day, I'm still feeling the glow radiating from those projects that I did back in back when I was 19 years old. And it's because I think when your burning desire is mixed in with going out there and doing something, and you have this foundation of kindness and compassion, that's the secret sauce, because I am still feeling the glow, feeling the love from those things, even though I'm not actively in there anymore, turning the thing and writing the thing out or whatever. That's not my role now. My role is alumni now. But they got to see what it was like to enjoy the process, to do things well, and not just do it because it's been done before. That's a sidebar, but I really despise that answer.
I'm on the same page with, just because something has been done one way right. for however long does not mean that it's right or that it's the best way to do it.
It's such a lazy response, isn't it?
It really is.
I'm like, all right.
It's kind of a non-response when you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like an excuse to not really know what you really feel or believe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So this clearly was a very, very impactful experience for you because you totally switched your major.
I did.
Yeah. So how did that experience inspire you to switch from vocal jazz to focusing on leadership and organizational development?
Yeah, I leaned in so hard to this thing, Ashley, this student leadership thing that I didn't even know I had in me. But I started being asked to speak at this event or go to this thing or be part of and I just was like, I was on fire. I was feeling so fed by helping to lead people my age through the challenges of COVID. I was hosting things on Zoom. I was hosting wellness events through the University of Toledo Rec Center. I unlocked something in me that I didn't even know I had in me. And it felt so good. And I was like, there's gotta be, I owe it to myself to create space and time for me to explore this more. As a music major, and I'm so grateful for my time at UT as a music major, but you're in conservatory mode. You don't have time.
That's true.
I was an outlier being in a sorority, starting the Multi-Faith Council, all this stuff.
You are right about that, because I know it's kind of a running joke with music majors, congratulations, because that is all you will be doing for the duration of your time. Anything related to music, that is what you will be doing. Anything outside of that, it's not going to happen. So I could see that you definitely would be an outlier with that for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean you're expected, and rightfully so, to spend the practice room is your best friend. You spend all your time in there.
Yeah.
And so I was just naturally feeling this other thing, Ashley. I was feeling it. And so I took a big leap, because, literally at that point, since birth to 2020, I was 20 years old. I had 2 decades of vocal jazz training, practically. And so that was a lot of my identity. So there's a lot of identity stuff that was happening in there. But I felt that this thing that I had landed on, it was vibrating at a frequency that I just couldn't get enough of. And so I took the leap. I switched, even though my dad, and that was really funny. I mean, everyone was like, your dad is like in the department. Like, what was that like? Was there drama? Like what? And I was like, no drama at all. I love the faculty. Like they're my family, actually.
That doesn't surprise me about your dad though, Isabella, because based on everything that you've said about him, it sounds like he really did and does just want you to follow your path and follow your dreams, no matter how that divulges. And even if it doesn't ultimately end up looking like what you thought it was going to look like initially.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, with every step along the way. I mean, it's hilarious, Ashley. Like, I was at the same time, basically, as creating the Multi-Faith Council, and I was going through this identity crisis. I had this moment where it was winter of 2020, and I went into hermit mode. I like grabbed my notebook, I grabbed my pen, and I was just like, okay, if I could do anything that I want to do, because that is what I've been told by my parents. You can do whatever you want to do. Here are some tools. You need some context to make that happen, but you can. And so I actually took the time to go through, okay, if I could do anything, what would that be? And it was at the time the student leadership aspect, but also I'm a very futuristic person. I think out 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years into the future. And so this thing plopped out on the page and I was like, what the hell is this? I want to help revitalize downtown Toledo. And I said, huh? I said, what? I was like, because that wasn't what I thought at all. And so I kept writing and I kept writing and writing and writing. It was like community, building a sense of belonging, the arts, having life and vibrancy and vitality running through the streets of Toledo. Like this was just gushing out of me. In fact, I drew, and I'm not a visual artist. I drew out pictures, outlines of buildings downtown. I was like, okay, here's the rooftop bar, and then here's where people are walking around downtown, and like, this is where they get to stop and listen to the musician, and this is where the kids get to play. Like, I just got really quiet with myself. That comes back to my Buddhist training, definitely. I got really still with myself, and it leapt out of me. And I still to this day, I don't even understand it. And then not only did that happen, I made the connection that it was the buildings that helped create that sense of community. I didn't know what urban planning was. I didn't know any of this kind of stuff, but I realized that there was something magical about a building that's built with intensity and integrity and intentionality. And so that really sparked something in me.
I can tell you're so passionate about this. I mean, your eyes just lit up when you're talking about it. So thinking about this and that you made that discovery, let's talk about your current work life. Tell me about that. How did all of this ultimately culminate in you being where you are now?
So I finished out UT. I had the best experience ever. I most definitely left my mark there. I made wonderful mentors and friends. And so when I graduated, I had this leadership and organizational development. And I said, okay, I have this piece. I know I want to be in real estate development downtown. So what I did is I just went full immersion on this. I was like, what committee can I go to? What event can I go to? What organization is doing this work? Who are all the real estate developers and how can I meet them? And I was just a maniac about it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to find my job. I know that this thing is just lighting something in me that I can't, it would be hurting myself and not really acknowledging all that I've been through if I didn't listen to my dreams. Like what horseshit? I mean, really, it's like I've been through so much just to not like go for it. What? No.
You know what though? That makes a lot of sense to me. I think in a certain sense, we all are kind of programmed to talk ourselves out of things when it comes to making a major move to regardless of what it is. So I feel like that's just kind of your general intuition kicking in, right? Because it's that fight or flight thing, I think, where you're like, oh boy, this is a huge deviation from what I initially thought. And so I get that. Initially, you kind of are not really put on the brakes, but kind of take a pause. And I think that's normal, right? To feel fearful about that.
Oh yeah, and the universe will test you too. Like, how badly do you want this thing? Because with anything, it's like if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. I listened to that, and I just felt that wash over me. And so literally for 8 months since I graduated UT until I found my job, I was just literally living on a prayer. Like, I was literally just like, okay, I know I have this thing and I know that it's out there, and how do I find it? And I was getting turned down left and right. I mean, it's like I met the real estate developers. tried to meet with ProMedica, Bitwise, any organization. At this point, it was like any organization that's trying to do something to help our city flourish, I'm there. And every single time, Ashley, it was like, nope, we can't offer you a job. We can have you do this for free. We'll have experience. And I was like, wow, that's so great. Thank you. I'll take some of that. And also, I need a job.
Right.
I need a job.
What kept you, though, from getting just so discouraged that you stopped trying to find that thing?
I think it really helped that I was actively sharing my story as I was going through the hardships. Because I had my support system, inner orbit all the way to the outer orbit, actually being like, when I think of the revitalization now, I think of you, Isabella. Like, they're sending me newsletters about, things that are happening downtown, and they text, hey, what's going on downtown this weekend? What's up? And so it was the support system and the fact that already people were linking this revitalization of Toledo with me as a person. And so I was like, okay, they think I can do it. All right, I'll keep going. And it sucked. It was really, I don't want to paint it as unicorns and rainbows and stuff.
Oh, I believe it. Rejection is tough, and no matter what form it comes in.
Yeah, especially as a young woman in a predominantly male industry, predominantly white male industry. I mean, it was like I was vulnerable. Like, it's just, looking back on it, honestly, I'm really proud of myself for sticking with it. And then what happened was, it was literally at that point, the breakthroughs always happen right after crisis.
That's very true. I very much agree with that.
I'm going to say it again. Breakthroughs happen after crisis. And so I was very much in that crisis stage where I was like, okay, is this what I really want? Like, what, universe, God, like, what, is this really going to happen? And then I did something that I really want to share. And what I did is I invested in myself. I purchased a personal development course that was led by someone locally in Toledo. Her name is Diana Patton, and she has a Rise Advocates Academy.
I've heard of her. She's a very motivated, amazing person from what I've heard.
Yes, incredible. And I, logically looking at it, I was working part-time as a fitness instructor and a yoga instructor. I'm living at home, all of these things. But I literally was like, okay, I need to be part of this course. So I was knocking on doors. I would do whatever it took to be part of this course because, and my mom said this to me too. She said, something's in there for you.
Yeah.
This thing about someone being local and someone being so focused on professional development and personal development, get in there, get in on that. And that's what changed everything. I joined the course, and so I became in Diana's orbit. And so as the course is going on, I'm sharing yes, I'm obsessed with Toledo, and I really just want to see everything be happy and flourish and buildings. I'm obsessed with buildings. And she goes, I have someone you need to meet. Her best friend is Ambria Mikolajczyk. And Ambria is the co-founder of ARC Companies, ARC Restoration and Construction, ARC Real Estate Development, Property Management. So all of this. And I was like, oh my God, I really haven't had an opportunity to actually ask Ambria. I knew who she was, but I wasn't at a place to ask her for a job or even really talk to her about real estate development. I had seen her in passing at Toll House for sure. And so Diana made the connection. She said, okay, this is my best friend, and this Isabella chick, she means business. She's a hard worker, and she's going hard on this course. And Diana also knew my past experience at the university.
Okay,
my track record there. And at that point, I'd already kind of gotten myself a good foundation of, yes, she says what she does, and she does what she says, and, all of that. And so I met with Ambria, and I think it was on Valentine's Day, actually. It was just really funny. And we just literally spent an hour and a half talking about our dreams for Toledo. And I started off the conversation with, hi, my name is Isabella Weik. And I didn't go into it like that exactly, but basically right up front, I was like, I want a job. I will do whatever. I need to be in the work that you're doing, because this is where I'm meant to be. And she could feel my passion.
I can feel it. It's very evident. I don't know how she wouldn't be able to feel it, seriously.
It all starts with a burning desire.
Yeah.
Like everything that you want in life, it just starts with that burning desire. And so I just laid it all out there. And she was like, okay. And so we had this great conversation. She says, all right, let's do a round 2 with my husband, Kevin, it's a husband and wife team at ARC. And so I meet them both for lunch at Mommy Bay Brewing Company, and they hand me the duties, and I'm like, executive assistant? I'm like, really? I'm like, oh my God, I want to clean the floors. At this point but I'm keeping that all to myself. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is so great. And it was the door that finally opened. It was the door that was like, and not only did it open, it was like kicked open. It was like, yes. And so literally now, Ashley, I am the executive assistant to Ambria and Kevin. I am doing real estate development in downtown Toledo, working on the Spitzer and the Nicholas building.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you.
This just popped into my head. What would you say to other people out in our area who are younger, who are struggling with the mentality of being afraid to infiltrate those circles where you feel like you're not old enough, you feel like you're not qualified enough, you feel like you're not whatever enough? How would you advise them to push past that?
Really recognize that everyone starts out as a beginner. Everyone has an origin story. If you flip the script, you say, I have this disadvantage and this disadvantage. No, that's just your origin story, baby. Everyone needs a good one. And so when you can actually own all those things about you, and then actually go through those things that you're saying to yourself, how can that be an advantage? Because I did have okay, I'm 22 years old, fresh out of college. This is a big world that I'm trying to step into. And at first, it was like that negative self-talk was like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
But I said, no, I'm 22 years old, and I have this dream, and I have these capabilities, and I even have the foresight to be able to say that I can contribute to this. Go for it. Every organization in Toledo is looking for that young leader to be able to take it on. Take on the work of revitalizing downtown Toledo. And so I really encourage everyone. Hello, Gen Zs. Love my Gen Zs. I'm the grandma of Gen Z.
I love that you said that. It's so great.
Born in 2000, not 2020. I was born in 2000, and I would definitely say that flip the script. be mindful of what you're saying to yourself, and then utilize it. Utilize it. Lotuses are one of my favorite flowers. It's the title of my first jazz album. It's my first tattoo I ever got. And lotuses are so important, particularly in Buddhism, because they grow from the mud. They literally have to grow from the shit. Like they do. They have to have they take the nutrients out of that gross mud, and then they bloom into this beautiful thing. And so if we're able to actually go through and recognize the mud that we've been through,
Yeah.
and use that as our fuel to do what we're meant to do. I feel like a lot of times people are like, well, I don't really know what my thing is or what my purpose is or whatever. And one thing that I've definitely learned is that your answers are most likely in your past. They are most likely in your childhood.
That's very true.
Like my physical body practice of teaching yoga, and I'm not a personal trainer anymore, but I was. That was so fulfilling and is so fulfilling to me because it touched on something that I wanted so desperately as a kid.
Oh my God.
Same thing about buildings and building a sense of community. I was lonely as a kid. I was isolated. If anyone's been through an autoimmune or any kind of illness as a child, you understand it's like no one really gets you, particularly kids your age. They just don't have the capacity to. It's just what happens. And so of course, my thing is that I love building community and I love having people to say hi to when I walk into the coffee shop. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, so really know your story. Know your story well. And not just as a memorized script, but like touch on the points of your past. And I had to do that with the assistance of therapy. I have an incredible therapist, and she's helped me to go through this river of memory and pluck out the things that are really crucial to my story. There was a lot of hurt, a lot of pain that happened in my childhood through my autoimmune disorder. But now that's my fuel. And it's not in a way where it's like, I don't know how to explain this. It's not like I'm using my story, but it's like I'm living out my childhood biggest dream. I'm embodying that. I'm not like using it. I'm not using it. I am it.
Yeah, it's like you're flipping that script.
Mm-hmm.
That resonated with me so much. I love your insight on that and just your overall thought process with it. It makes a lot of sense because I think up until now, I don't think I really knew what I wanted to do until I started the podcast. And I really do think it all is ultimately rooted in childhood. I grew up really feeling misunderstood most of the time and completely invalidated. And I feel like with this, I want to help people feel understood and help people feel validated, and to be able to take something that was very painful and felt like an extreme deficit when I was a kid, and to be able to flip that I really can't put into words how that feels. I love that you put words to that, because I've never thought of it in that way. That's such a beautiful way to look at it.
You have such a gift, my friend. I mean, really, like when I first met you, I was like, I feel like I'm meeting an old friend.
I felt the same way about you. Seriously. Yes, I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, you have that. I have a couple friends that I describe as light people. Like you are, as soon as you see them, as soon as you're in their vicinity, it's like they just provide this warm light, and it's all good vibes. And that's what I felt initially when I met you. So thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so now for you to be actualizing that in a tangible way that you can actually document the process. You can actually see your dream unfolding. Who knows what this podcast is going to be in a couple years?
Yeah.
You know?
It's really interesting that you said that, because that I see some mirrored things with our experiences from the standpoint of looking at something that maybe at some point seems unattainable, but starting to go for it and just going hard, and then seeing that what you thought it was going to be was initially such a limited view, and it keeps expanding. And so I get that, because I feel like even just with this season, as this getting going with the filming process and working on more intentionality with connecting with our community and connecting with the people who are following it, new things are coming, new opportunities are coming, and new ways to provide a positive platform for our community. So I love your drive and your work ethic and your ability to see that it might really, really suck and might take a long time, and you might have to deal with a lot of rejection. But if you can just stick with it and be intentional and know your values and know what you want, then it's going to be okay. And ultimately, all of that failure, I mean, I know you said you experienced a lot of rejection and a lot of being turned down, but it looks like you took that and you just let it fuel you. And now you get to appreciate all of that hard work and the times that no's happened, and look at it and say, that's okay, because clearly that wasn't for me. And look at where I am now.
Yeah. And really I love what you said, Ashley, about it being better than you ever thought possible.
Yeah.
Like when you have enough space in your dream to let the universe, God, Allah, like who your family deity, whoever, but allowing that to play an active role in your dream too. When you allow that window to be open, okay, show me how good it can get. You know, like show me what other possibilities are out there. What other people am I going to meet? Simply because I'm vibrating at this level that invites everything you want in.
I don't know how it is for you, but one thing that I've learned for myself through my own process is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I have been my most limiting thing in all of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like really, truly, I've been my biggest barrier. And I think in talking to people, that seems to be the general theme. It's when you can finally figure out how to get out of your own way and realize that all of the things that you're telling yourself inside your head, it goes back to what you were saying about changing what you're telling yourself. Because if you're telling yourself there's no way that this will work out, I'm not qualified enough to do this, then that's exactly what's going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You need to be kind to yourself and just simply acknowledge that you would never say that to your best friend.
Exactly.
You would never say that out loud. And actually, an interesting exercise is if you are thinking of something really kind of nasty or negative, or, my skin's not really great today, my car isn't, whatever, actively say it out loud and just allow it some space out in the open. Because when you do that, you can actually hear how ridiculous that is.
Yeah. It really is.
It's like, my gosh.
We're so hard on ourselves.
We are.
We really are.
We really are. My mom says that to me. She says, you're really hard on yourself, particularly in that 8-month gap. I was like, I'm not kidding. She's like, just give it time. I
think that kind of too, this is my personal opinion, but I think that goes hand in hand with people that are highly driven, because it's not that you can't appreciate where you're at. And I know that that's true, because you are a person who is actually able to keep yourself in the moment. And I know that is something that takes practice and intentionality, and you're able to do it. So it's not that at all. It's that once you achieve something and you see, holy shit, I can do this, then it's very hard, I think, when you're highly driven, to be satisfied with that. Because I think then you're like, well, if I was able to do this, it clearly I can continue to push. So I think I don't know how it is for you, but that's what I found for myself, is I think that it kind of goes hand in hand with that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the biggest lesson you'll hear. What is the difference between success and fulfillment? A lot of people think that success equals fulfillment. When they get the job, when they get the car, when they get the boyfriend, whatever, they think that is the thing that you'll finally exhale. You'll finally have it.
Yeah.
And one of the core teachings of Buddhism is like, no, you are of the nature to grow old. You are of the nature to have ill health. You are of the nature of change. everything else outside of you can go away like that. And if you are relying on yourself and your heart and your mind to be okay solely on what the external world looks like, you will never be happy, ever. And so being informed by that training and that teaching, it's allowed me actually to appreciate the juiciness of life even more, because I'm not relying on the job to make me happy. I'm not relying on the people to make me happy. And when that is detached, you could actually just experience it for what it is.
Yeah.
And be fully in it when it's there in front of you, and also let it go when it's not. It's important to know when to let stuff go.
Why do you think it's so hard for many people to, I don't want to say recognize when something no longer serves them, because I think for most people, it's very obvious to all of us when something is no longer feeling good or feeling right. Why do you think, though, that it's so hard for so many people to actually honor that within themselves and be okay with saying, this has run its course, I have completed this race, it's okay to walk away from this, it's not a sign of failure? Why do you think that that's so difficult?
I think we're really afraid of space. And what I mean by that is, like, we are so accustomed to the chitter chatter of our mind, the chitter chatter of the phone, the chitter chatter of the people, of the environment or whatever. We constantly need something to distract ourselves. And so we feel like if we don't have that thing anymore, there's going to be this big gaping gap. And that means, meaning is important here, that gap means that I will be sad and lonely and, oh God, I'm going to regret it. And this is good enough. This is good. I'm fine. But if you actually just allow the space between your intention and the result, and you allow there to be this grace in between the letting go and the great new thing that's coming, that's where the superpower is. If you can actually hang with yourself and be kind to yourself and be rooted in yourself, even when you might feel like you are completely alone, that's when all the goodness comes to you. It must. You have to create space for your life to actually unfold for you the way that you want. And it's scary and it's hard. And I know, I went through that gaping 8 months and it was like this huge, like cavernous, like, oh my God. But I needed that space. I needed it to learn. I needed it to prove to myself that I can do this. And I needed it to really experience the fulfillment of being on the other end of it. You know, good things take time.
Yes, they do. That's very true.
Good things take time. And so if you get success or whatever too quickly, it's like dust in the mouth.
It's really hard to fully appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't really hit right.
I really appreciate that you said that about the whole concept of making space. I'm going to speak from my own personal experience. It's really, really hard sometimes, often, to sit in the bad feelings, to sit in the discomfort of pain in general, to allow yourself to be okay with feeling angry or the other negative emotions that go along with being in a time that it feels uncertain or there's a big upheaval. I love what you said, though, because in trying to drown that out, and I really do get it, because I know for myself I don't like to feel those things either, but in drowning them out, you still are not leaving any space for the good stuff. So it's one of those things where you almost have to allow yourself to feel the discomfort in order to then be able to feel the goodness that comes after going through that discomfort.
Yeah, if we're talking about a relationship, there's a grieving portion.
Absolutely.
There. A job, anything. Like if you're letting go of anything, you need time to process it. And that processing part is important. And again, I'll come back to the importance of therapy. Because if you're trying to do this all by yourself,
Yeah.
that can be very challenging. I am not who I am because I tried to do it all on my own.
Right.
Hell no.
Yeah.
Hell no. I can't do this by myself. I've got a health team to this day that's crazy. Like I have like 6 people on my health team. I go to acupuncture, I go to therapy, I go to yoga. Like there are so many support systems built in, and that's what we must do. We must take an active approach to taking care of ourselves, not just slapping on a face mask at the end of the night. Like, that's great. Not enough. Where's the,
Right.
go through the gook.
Right.
You wash off the gook on the face, that's fine. What about the gook in the heart?
Oh, that's true.
The gook in the mind. That is always going to come out if we don't take care of it. It will. And it's, in Buddhism in particular, it's like it's our responsibility to show up for the world as our most authentic, clear, clean version of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because no matter what we're dealing with humans, there's gonna be some shit. Like,
yeah.
But if we can show up as our most healthy, enriched version, we're able to help on a massive scale much wider and bigger than if we were not taking care of ourselves.
That makes so much sense. I've seen that in my own life. The more intentional I've been about taking care of my mental health and really coming into my own as my authentic self, I'm finding the more I'm okay with being exactly who I am, even the parts of myself that I'm not the biggest fan of, I'm finding my people. I'm attracting other people who are authentic. And I think it's this really interesting dichotomy because I feel like we all as people we're craving authenticity from other people, but for some reason when it comes to looking at ourselves, there's almost like this block there. Like you still feel like you're expected to put something out that is not truly authentic to polish, but really we're all craving what is real and authentic.
It's a skill to be able to show up as your whole self. It's
hard. It's really hard.
It's challenging because, and as we get older too, we just cake on another mask after mask after mask. It's just caked on. So a lot of times when you're interacting with someone, you're talking to the mask that they put on every day. But you can feel it when you're talking to someone who's speaking from what's called their hara, their center point. This is the term in Aikido. If they're speaking from the soul, in other words, from this one point here, it just cuts through. It cuts through. And it's a blessing to be able to do that for other people and to mirror that for other people and to show people how to do that.
Definitely.
It's a responsibility.
Self-love is such a process. I think it can be very overwhelming for people. I don't know how you are with it, but I think the biggest thing that I've learned so far in my life is just start. Just start trying. It's hard because we all are acutely aware of what we view as our deepest flaws, our biggest failures. And so I think, in my opinion, anytime you can just start, just start to unravel what you're telling yourself in your head. That for me is what I found is just being able to start tackling that. It is not easy, but it does get a little less difficult over time.
Yes. In Buddhism, we always say you are full and complete, lacking nothing. You are full and complete, lacking nothing.
That's beautiful.
And with that, there's some things we need to work on, but having that base, you are lacking nothing. You have everything you need to in order to do and to be what you want to be. So in Buddhism, a lot of people think that Buddha is a god, and this is not the case. Buddha was a human teacher. And the reason why this is so powerful is because it's just a human recognizing that they are full and complete, lacking nothing. Everyone can do that. He was a dude who was just, So if he can do it, we can do it.
Absolutely.
We already have all the stuff that we need. We really do. But the biggest thing, and this is where the meditation practice comes in, is that you have to be able to tolerate yourself. My dad always says that. You gotta tolerate yourself.
That's tough. It's tough sometimes.
Yeah.
You have wisdom beyond your years. I keep forgetting, it's irrelevant anyway, but I keep forgetting that you're 22 because first of all, you have an appreciation for life in general that I think a lot of people miss out on. You really do see the true simplistic beauty in simply existing on the planet exactly as you are. But your overall outlook on self-worth, on your own self-worth, on the worth of other people is, I'm deeply, deeply impressed and deeply appreciative that you're bringing this. One, because I feel like I'm absorbing and learning from you, and I know it just makes me really happy because I know I'm not going to be unique in that. I know that people that listen and watch are going to pick that up from you, and so I'm so appreciative that you're willing to be vulnerable and share like this.
Thank you. That means a whole lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I really feel that my story and what I've been through and stuff, I'm finally ready to do things like this. I'm ready to share it out. I'm ready to take all of these blessings. I was raised by 2 Buddhist priests.
So cool.
What the hell?
That's
like,
really
I
cool.
gotta share that out. I've been immersed in this tradition my whole life.
Yeah.
It's my responsibility to. And so it's like, if people don't like it, if people feel threatened by it, whatever. There's a long list.
You know what though? I will say this very much to your credit. I don't at any point, have not at any point in this conversation or prior when we've interacted felt that you're in any way pushing what you believe on anyone else. I feel like you're literally just serving up the information on a platter and just showing people what has added to your life, what has helped you along the way, and you're excited about it. And so that's what I see from that. I just see you sharing something that has been so life-changing and amazing and groundbreaking for you, and seeing it and knowing that it could be helpful for other people. So I feel like you're just sharing that love and not shoving it on other people. You know what I mean?
Thank you. I mean,
You're welcome.
I really try to be like that as a human being.
You're succeeding.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have got to talk about Toll House.
Yeah.
Yes, let's talk about Toll House. So, like I told you, I've had a couple exposures to Toll House. I went there for the first time with Abby Sarabia, who was on the podcast last season. My mouth dropped open, okay? And I feel like this happens with Toledo in general. I love this magical aspect of Toledo. There are places in Toledo that I don't think people realize we have these amazing hidden gems of culture and community. You want to talk about a community? So please, 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 for people that, one, don't have any clue what Toll House is or have heard of it but aren't really quite sure what it is, please share a little bit about what Toll House is, and then I want to know how that's changed your life and how it's added to your life.
Yeah. So Toll House is a social club for the creative and entrepreneurial class of Toledo. Like, that's like the mission of it. And so I attribute a ton of my success and my sense of belonging to Toll House. One of the first things I did when I graduated college is I became a member. I like, literally, it's like I graduated and then I put in the application. I'm the youngest member by far.
Good for you, though. It's not surprising. That very much goes along with your ambition and your drive. That makes a lot of sense. And I think you're so smart to get plugged into a community like that, because you're getting to interact with and generally spend time with and be in community with people who are just as driven and who are able to open doors and who are able to add to your life in a positive way. So I think it's so amazing that you saw that as something that would be a really positive thing for you.
Yeah, I mean, one of my first days there, I was at like a Taco Tuesday or something, and I was sitting up there, I had my laptop, I was working on stuff, and I look over and I see like legit all of city council just like sitting there.
That's
and
awesome.
I was like, what? And I was like, oh my God. And so I didn't even know what to do. I felt this immense sense of gratitude. And like, so city council's over here, the director of TSA was over there, like just, there were all of these key people.
It's 419 fangirling.
Yeah.
Yes, right?
Oh my God. I'm such a fangirl. Like that's
For somebody that loves Toledo so much,
Yeah.
I can just imagine. It's like the concept of being a kid in a candy store. It's ridiculous because you have all these people, all these incredible people right there in one room.
Yes, including the founders, Will and Angela Lucas. They're incredible.
I've heard so many good things about them. I would really love to connect with them because I think people would love to hear from them. I love their vision and what they're trying to do.
They're incredible people.
It's awesome.
I mean, I was so moved and overwhelmed by like my first night there that I didn't know what to do. I was fangirling, as you were saying. And so I went over to the one spot in Toll House where you can take a picture. And I took a selfie and I was like, basically, I said something along the lines of, on my Instagram story, I was like, this is like the best place in Toledo, and like, this is so fun. And like, I was just like such a geek. And I just posted it. Like, I was just like, I need to share this out that I'm so grateful to be in this space. And then like Toll House reposted. I was like, oh my God, they reposted my story. And then Will came up to me and said, hey, like, that was really cool you said that. And I was like that just, I was so geeked. And what I've really found too, if you want a sense of community in Toledo, don't shy away from being the fangirl. Like, if you love something, a local restaurant, a local person, share them out.
Yeah, we need cheerleaders. Cheerleaders are a great thing.
I love doing that. Like, I love doing that. And that has been a great way to make friends. It's been a great way to feel like you're part of that person's story. Everyone needs a cheerleader.
Definitely.
Yeah, so a little bit more about what Toll House is. So you every room is beautiful. And
It's unreal.
Yeah,
I seriously, I'm a little bit speechless because when Abby was walking me around, I'm like, this is unreal. It's so cool. And the space is so, when I met you for coffee, all the plants that were in there and everything, the space has a very good vibe. It feels very good to be in there.
Oh, absolutely. And also, so it was an old umbrella factory, and now it's been restored, revitalized into this social club. And it has a conference room and a coffee shop and a jazz club and a spot for me to teach yoga.
I saw you've been doing that. That's so awesome. I'm really glad that you're getting to do that. It's great.
I love it, Ashley. I love my Toll House yogis. It's the best. I look forward to it every week. But it's a spot where, like, under one roof, you have the creatives, the leaders, the innovators, everyone under the same roof. And for me personally, there's a jazz club. Hello, jazz musician. My dad's a jazz musician. Jazz.
Right.
A spot for me to do yoga. I didn't mention this, but my mom taught yoga for 30 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, and
That's
so
awesome.
I have a deep connection with yoga that way. So I get to teach yoga there. And it's also a spot for community. Like, those are literally like three of my like biggest things. And so it's like, when you find something that just lights you up, go for it. Go for it. Life is too short. We only have a finite amount of time to do what we're meant to do.
Definitely.
And also, your life is meant to be enjoyed. Enjoy your life.
Absolutely. So, looking at Toledo as a whole, who inspires you?
There's so many, and this list keeps growing. I would say first, I want to give a major shout out to my grandparents. My grandfather, my grandmother are the founders of Carpets by Otto.
Really?
Yes, my grandpa is Otto.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yes, entrepreneur, like selling carpet out of his car, and then all the way from that to now, over 50 years later, 3 locations in Toledo. And so I've learned so much from my grandparents. I mean, they really are a tag team. Like, it's the two of them, husband and wife team, working towards the same goals and visions and dreams. I've learned so much from my grandparents. I love them so dearly. I'm so blessed I'm an only child and only grandchild. So I get a lot of, yes, I get all of it, all the attention, all the love, and I love it. I really eat it up. I don't take it for granted. So my grandparents are definitely at the top of that list. My parents too, for what they've built together. It's really interesting, actually. I'm just recognizing that, like, the people, there of course are exceptions to this. There are lots of people that isn't like this, but I really admire husband and wife teams, or couple teams, I should say, that are building something together.
Yeah, there's a power and a unity in that. I love that you said that. It's really interesting because my wife and I are not working on the exact same thing, but she's an artist, and she, almost at the same time as of me starting the podcast, she started to put her art out there and started to really try and build it. So even though we've been walking separate paths in a sense because they're different, we're walking the same path. And so I have found even in the ridiculous busyness of our lives now, because it's gotten really busy and we have to be a lot more concentrated about making sure we make time for each other. There's been this greater sense of unity and greater sense of bond, because I feel like she is striving so hard and so intentionally towards her goal, and I feel like that's what I'm doing too. So I feel like doing that at the same time, there is a huge power in that when you're both feeding off of that energy with each other.
Absolutely. I mean, it's palpable. I mean, it's a gorgeous thing to witness.
Talk about cheerleaders too. Mm-hmm. Having an in-house cheerleader is really great.
Right. One person is having a bad day, the other person can pull the weight, like, this is kind of a sidebar, but I value relationships heavily. If you can, as you could probably tell, I love community, I love people. And particularly for me in my future, like, I'm taking this thing of like a life partner, like, pretty serious.
That's good.
Because it's, what it can be at its best. I've seen what it can be at its best. I've had the fortune of seeing what my grandparents' relationship is like, what my Aunt Kelly and Uncle Michael, what their relationship is like, what my parents' relationship is like. And what an asset, to say the very least. That word doesn't even begin to describe it, but what a key, And so for me personally, I'm being very choosy about that. And I would encourage other people my age and younger to also be choosy about that.
I think that's incredibly wise, and you know what you want, you know who you are, you know where your values lie. So I love that you recognize that it's important for you to take the time, right? And that's an okay thing, because as you've seen, so many things have happened over the last however many years, and I think that's really awesome that you want to make sure that it's somebody that aligns with you. That's a really important thing.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, literally all of college, I was single. And people were like, oh, it's because she's just so driven. She's so doing her things. I was doing my things. I am driven. But it's also because, like, I'm not really messing around with it. You know? Like, it's a sacred thing to me. And so I'm excited to, as I become even more me, I feel like I know, actually, my future self will be listening to this and go, when I'm ready, I'll know. When I'm ready for that phase of my life, like, I'll know. And I'll be ready to give it my all, just the same as I have with the other aspects of my life. Hasn't happened yet, but who knows?
Well, as we wrap this up, is there anything else you want to say to our community?
I want to say that Toledo is known as being a place of hidden gems. And I feel that it's all of our responsibilities to make those gems known. And by you using your voice and sharing those gems, it's important. Your voice is important. Your story is important. Your contributions are important. And so when we can all collectively be each other's cheerleader, shout out the restaurant that you adore. Shout out Original Sub Shop. I will just do that randomly because I love Sub Shop so much.
It's so good.
Same cafe. Just it's all of our responsibilities to do that for our city, because we have a self-image issue in Toledo. I've talked about this with mentors of mine.
Yeah.
As a city, we just don't, as a city whole, we have a hard time believing in ourselves. If you look at the comments of, the Facebook posts on the Toledo page or whatever, a lot of times it's very negative. And I'm sure that Will and Angela were told many a times, what do you think? You're building a social club in Toledo?
Right.
For entrepreneurs? Really? Yeah, really. You don't have to be an entrepreneur, but innovative minded.
Yeah.
But our city is actually full of that.
It's overflowing with it. Yeah.
Right. So it's all of our responsibilities to do that for our city.
Thanks for loving on Toledo so much. Out of all seriousness, I love people like you so much because you get it. You see that Toledo really is this living, breathing thing and so much potential, and we have such incredible people. I still can't get over it. Just the minds that we have here, the hearts that we have here, the talent that we have here, the drive that we have here. It's really amazing. So thank you so much for caring so much and wanting to make things better, and for being so vulnerable and for sharing your story. Your story is incredible and so encouraging, and I'm so excited for other people to hear it, especially people who, like you said, shout out to Gen Z, to see if you hustle and you know your worth and you figure out what aligns with your values and you look at what you're passionate about and you just go for it, you really can do it. You just have to put in that work. So I appreciate you so much sharing all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome. I can't wait to see what you do from here. We're going to have to do another sit down. We'll say 5 years from now, we'll bring you back on the podcast, because I really, yeah, seriously. Just knowing what you've accomplished since you were 19. You know what I mean? Just knowing what you've accomplished in that time, I can't even imagine what the next 5 years are going to be like for you. So I'm really excited to hear all about it. So thank you.
Thank you for pouring into me like this. I've had so much fun.
Absolutely.